There's never been a time in history other than now where a woman could control this amount of capital and who could have the capacity to find others with dreams and skills and vision and to say, yes, you.
I'm Majenta Strongheart, and you're listening to The Bomb. Wrapping up our theme of DesignLab's community, this week I'm joined by the brilliant Kate McAndrew, a co-founder and general partner at venture firm Baukunst. She's also the founder of Women in Hardware, a community for women and non-binary people building groundbreaking hardware and software products and innovative tech companies. After 3 episodes of highlighting makers and designers like Jayy and Sophy and entrepreneur engineers like Kwabena, Kate is the perfect guest to tie our theme together, representing the much appreciated investor side of the innovator community, without whom big ideas and experimental technology could not be developed and scaled for us to enjoy. I'm so excited for Kate to chat with us and help us bridge the gap between makers and investors. While many listeners will know what a venture capitalist or VC does, I'd like to break it down before diving into our conversation with Kate. In the most basic sense, a VC is a private equity investor that provides capital to companies with high growth potential in exchange for an equity stake. This could be funding startup ventures or supporting small companies that wish to expand but just don't have access to funds. The key difference between traditional private equity investors and venture capitalists is that the private equity investors mostly fund established companies with proven growth, while venture capitalists take more initial risk on new companies, and with high risk can come very high reward. Welcome, Kate. We're here on our new podcast, The Bomb, and I'm so excited to be speaking with you. You are a writer, curator, community organizer, general partner, investor, dancer, witch, mother extraordinaire, and I'm just so stoked that you're making time for us. I know this is a big week for you, which we will get into in just a moment, but I just want to do a little check-in. How are you feeling? What were you up to right before you sat down here?
Actually, something really exciting. We were having a discussion, we being my fellow GPs at Baukunst, we were actually having a discussion about putting down our first term sheet for our first investment out of this new fund for this new firm that we've started.
And maybe you could tell us a little bit just to get started about what you mean by back out there. So where are you guys stepping? You and your team actually have a little bit of history together, right? So maybe you can give us a little background from Bolt.io to now this new fund. And we're going to get into greater detail, of course, around Baukunst. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Is that
Baukunst?
Baukunst.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta practice that. Baukunst.
It's one of those really fun German compound words. So Baukunst means the art of building.
I thought it was really interesting to hear about a VC fund focused on the creative technologist.
One of the things that we found is that across industries, across technology stacks, across the whole economy, there is an archetype of founder that we really believe has an edge in building things that we believe are important and valuable. And we call those people creative technologists. And so for us, it's really a combination of deep skill and facility with technology. So truly being an expert of your craft, but having this unique insight into the way that culture is moving or into the way that demand is being reshaped at this almost macro level that allows these people to have insights that other people haven't had yet and to build compelling, durable solutions that are going to kind of build, scale, and endure. And so when we think about creative technologists, they're often interdisciplinary. Right. They're sometimes T-shaped, but it's interdisciplinary in how they think about the world or the skills that they have. We find that they're often bringing kind of first generation technology products to market. So we get really excited by first generation technology products because by definition, they're kind of hard to do, right?
Absolutely.
It's never been done before. And oftentimes that comes from this place of unique insight technology. So we love that. We're particularly excited about people who are reimagining how things are made. So how we design our built environment, how we interact with our built environment, how we move things around the world. So we see a concentration in creative technologists kind of innovating there. I'm, have a really long-standing connection to people that are using the companies that they're building to really move culture forward. So reimagining how companies themselves are built, right? So, that might be in terms of how they're managing their workforce, or like how they're thinking about what kind of a format a company could even be, right? It's really experimenting in that realm. I had a fourth one. Redesigning old systems with sustainability at the center. So that's really a fourth area of concentration where we're seeing a lot of kind of the best creative technologists spending their time. So it's like, yes, it touches art and design, and like I'm definitely an artsy tech person, but more than that, it's about the perspective, right? The perspective that they bring,
and I think
mode
the
of execution,
of right and left brain, and all these different things.
Right.
And I think focusing on the who absolutely makes sense. Of course, something I've heard time and time again when it comes to sort of startup strategies and investing is, a product or a business or solution might pivot a number of times, but what really outlasts, those different iterations are the people behind them, and they're what lead to it being a success or not, right? So
one of the things that I love about my partners, and one of the reasons I love investing with them, is there's just a real focus on quality of work and not quality of resume in some ways, and I think that there's at big funds, it's very easy, to kind of give that Stripe VP $2 million without thinking that hard about it. No one ever got fired for giving that Stripe VP $2 million, right? And I think like by having a focus on creative technologists, there's just like a universe of people that I think are, building exceptional companies who are undervalued by the market, right? Or who maybe aren't.
Missed opportunities.
They're missed opportunities. And I think, we, as a team, all invested together at Bolt for many years, and those, funds are performing extremely well. And that's what we saw, was that like if you kind of strip away the pomp and circumstance and you really get into the substance of people and the substance of ideas and substance of markets,
not
it's like
just
that's
their
what it
accolades
does.
Or their degrees or whatever.
Totally.
Can you take us back a little bit, rewind, and give us the Kate McAndrew kind of origin story?
Sure.
And some of the moments you really think, equipped you for where you're at today, and allow you to have this unique perspective in who you want to support and building this fund now.
Yeah. So I grew up in Pasadena, California, which is home to DesignLab.
Yeah, we traded places basically. Yeah. I grew up in San Francisco, which is now home to your businesses.
Yeah. And I went to an all girls school, which was actually a really powerful formative experience for me. And it was really a place that promoted people becoming the absolute best of whatever the thing that they were called to do, right? And so I looked at the graduating high school class, and there's an astronaut and this woman who was always like the art kid. Like I walked into the Whitney Biennial and she has 6 drawings in the Whitney Biennial.
Oh my gosh,
and
so amazing.
I think I really grew up in a supportive community where I was taught to excel, but to do it in a community of collaborators, right? And where that was really the foundational values that were put forward in my education. I went to McGill University in Montreal and double majored in art history and cultural studies, and spent, my college years drinking wine and reading theory and making bad art.
Yeah. And that's why you come up with the best fun names.
Yes, totally. But really that was just about going more deeply into myself and exploring my creative side. And so fast forward a few years, I ended up actually in the rural South to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity through the AmeriCorps program. And I spent a year building houses there. And it was really a part of this desire that I had to learn to make and build, more physically.
Get hands-on.
Yeah. And I think like, especially with this like very strong feminist, underpinning that I had, like I really wanted to be able to build a house. Like that was like something I wanted to achieve.
It's incredibly empowering. I mean, it really to build anything with your hands that you can use, that's functional, that you can live in, support yourself with. Yeah, I could go on and on.
Well, and to me, like that was not a part of my upbringing, right? And so to like demystify that, like felt very empowering. And in a backwards way, it's how I got into venture. So like surprise, surprise, I actually met these volunteers on this job site who were retired angel investors from New York. They have retired to North Carolina. And they got to know me and they started telling me about, this is 2010, 2011, so it's a long time ago now. So they told me about an accelerator, which completely like blew my mind.
You hadn't heard of this sort of thing?
No, I'd never, YC and Techstars were pretty established,
right.
But I was so not a part of this community, right? Like it was just not on my radar. And so the idea that there could be an organization that would find people who were starting businesses and getting them off the ground and give them money and then help them do it was like mind-blowing to me. And I started this accelerator program and co-working space and code school for kids and took a very community-driven approach to that and fell in love with it. And so through that program, I invested in my first 10 companies. One of them was from Silicon Valley. I realized that this is what I wanted to do. So my husband and I, actually at that point we were engaged, I think, loaded up our U-Haul and brought our dog here. One of the startups that I had invested in falsified an employment letter so we could qualify for our first apartment because I think we had like a few $1,000s in our bank account and no jobs, like we were really like sleeping on the floor of their warehouse community and kind of a classic San Francisco story, honestly. Right. But that company like made this bridge and this community welcomed us to this place. And they're the ones that connected me with Bolt. So I joined Bolt in 2014. We were just about to start deploying our $32 million fund, which was a 2015 vintage. And, I over the course of 7, almost 8 years, invested that $32 million fund and then a $70 million fund. And, over the course of that time, starting my own firm was always the dream. And so Baukunst for me is that firm. And it's like such a privilege and such, for me, a moment in time to kind of go back to kind of my upbringing. There's never been a time in history other than now where a woman could control this amount of capital and who could have the capacity to find others with dreams and skills and vision and to say, yes, you, right? And for me, like, that's what this work is about. And it's about, using the gifts that I have, the potential that I have to empower those around me and to build things that are meaningful.
That was so beautifully put. I'm sort of speechless. I'm just like, mic drop. She made the podcast. We're done. How many more questions can we ask? Truly, thank you for sharing the whole, how you got to where you are today. And I love talking about arts education and where it can get people because I think there's so much silly stigma around it or, judgment, and art and design and these fields are really all about problem solving. And like you said, especially in community, I think is a point to highlight and something that we really believe in at DesignLab and Hackaday as well, that the best things sort of come out of being able to share and work together. And I think that's a perfect segue to dive a little more into the event and the conference coming up tomorrow. Because I think the way that you're organizing it and the vision you have for it and the way you're producing it is really sort of exemplifies what you're talking about as far as this distributed, collaborative kind of model and bringing in all these different interdisciplinary individuals to pull this off. And I'm going to selfishly take up a little time and talk about, how I'm involved because I'm really stoked to be involved because you invited me to help sort of organize and manage the exhibit display and build out for the the swag. I don't know if you even really want to call it that, but maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about the swag.
We're having this conference. The normal thing is to like get some water bottles printed, some sweatshirts, God save us, some vests, you know, like, and
another baseball cap.
Yeah.
With an embroidered logo.
I'm like looking at the line item in the budget. I'm just like, this is a lot of money for stuff that nobody needs. Right. Like the environment doesn't need it. I don't need it.
Goodwill doesn't need it.
No, like it. And so to me, I'm always interested in working with artist collaborators as much as I can. And I had this idea to see if we could do an artist collaboration in lieu of swag. And I reached out to a phenomenal artist, Eric, and I can't pronounce his last name.
I know, I was going to wait for you to say it.
But Eric, who is an artist I've admired for a really long time, and does a lot of work in clay and in wood. And I think to me is like a really interesting person, and someone who thinks through the art of building in his work. Like I immediately thought of his work. And so I just reached out and was like, hey, would you potentially want to collaborate on doing like a set of sculptures for these attendees? And I kind of gave him the brief of the art of building and this concept of how we sort of see creative technology. And he was super down. And so we really gave him this brief and gave him creative freedom to think about, you know, what these sculptures could be. He had this amazing idea, which was, you know, he would make 50 kind of backs, and then out of wood with different textures and colors, and then 50 ceramic handmade pieces of just different textures and colors that could attach to the backs, and having kind of a display area at the conference where each person could come up and pick two pieces and put them together and kind of become a collaborator in the work and a builder in the work. And sort of thinking about the infinite, I could do the math, but like the infinite number of potential sculptures, but then like how each person interacts with those objects and creates this new form themselves. And that fit beautifully within his existing artistic practice. And so we were really excited to have him say yes and to be able to bring this experience. And the truth is, it's no more expensive than doing a water bottle and a vest and, you know, a notebook or whatever.
Say that part again for the people in the back, right? Like the amount of money that goes, we can go on about that.
Right. And so, and like what I love about it and what's been so beautiful in making this project happen is like, if you work with great people and you trust them and you're able to like present a strong concept, like it's just so amazing to see how really surprising things can come out of that. And it became this natural thing to pull you in. And then I was like, oh, now I'm collaborating with Majenta. And like this whole conference, this like 2-day conference at the Long Now, the Baukunst Creative Technologist Conference, and I'm hoping it's the first of many. Like it really has been a snowball effect of collaborations.
Here's a brief clip from Kate's recent talk at the Baukunst Creative Technologist Conference, where she discusses raising capital at a company's formation.
There was a whole internal discussion about how do we at Baukunst talk about the phase that we invest. And I think over time, there's been like a lexical slip around like stage names. Like my partner Axel, has been investing in what we call pre-seed today since the 90s, and then it was called Series A, right? And now Series A's are like $20 million, $30 million, and people are kind of in like the growth phases. So we say company formation because I feel like that really describes the stage at which we actually wish to invest. And it's like kind of removing the abstracted language of like seed and pre-seed. What is pre-seed even, But at the same time, we acknowledge that we exist within a community of people who put tags on things. And so I think like company formation to us is also pre-seed now. I don't believe venture capital exists purely to make more money, right? Like I understand how money works. I deal in money. Money is in many ways a technology, but I believe venture capital's purpose is to find people with really ambitious ideas that require capital in order to build, transformational tools and technology. And I think that that's very different than just a company that needs money.
What sort of, I want to say advice, but almost not even advice because I remember at the Groundwork conference, one of the founders was asked a question, what kind of advice do you have for entrepreneurs or people that want to be founders, like to stay motivated or something? And he was like, if you need that kind of advice, you shouldn't be a founder. Yeah, totally. He's like, which was like really, basically. Which is like really true, right? Honestly, like that was really, that's words of encouragement. That is the kindness, though. The kindness is to say, like, if you're not intrinsically motivated to do this, you just shouldn't. Like, maybe it's tough love. I know. I'm like, so where am I going with this really question? I guess just a reminder to folks out there that there are opportunities for people that don't see themselves in the traditional archetype of a founder, and things are changing. And something I speak a lot about is people are excited to work with people who have proven sort of what they can do in, their, like, I want to say portfolio, but literally, projects or things they've accomplished. Again, these hands-on sort of examples, not just, you don't have to have the degree, you maybe learned how to code online or whatever, but you found a way to get the skills you needed to do what you're saying you can bring to the table for this job. Well, and I'll give you a great example. So we led the pre-seed round in a business called Bobby Baby, which makes the first new FDA-approved infant formula that's come to market in the US in over 5 years. And it's a super hot company now. When we met Laura, she was a solo founder. She was 6 months pregnant. She had never started a food company or done anything with FDA approval, right? She had worked at Airbnb. She was an early exec at Airbnb. And let me tell you, it was not easy for her to fundraise. She didn't look like exactly who people thought were going to be successful with that kind of business. But what we saw was someone who knew what great was, right? She had phenomenal references across the board. If you knew Laura, you loved to work with Laura. Like, we constantly got the, like, if something broke at midnight, Saturday night, I knew I could call Laura and she'd fix it, right? Like, and so one of the things to remember too is that the project of founding something is not the same thing as being the best individual contributor. Your number one job as a leader is to build products and to galvanize teams that you can be proud of, that people want to get behind, right? Because it's about getting that snowball going, right? It's about getting that momentum. And it's been incredible to see what she's accomplished. And I think the thing to remember is that if you have the vision and you have the drive and that unquestionable kind of like, I'm going to do this no matter what, that is the thing that you need, right? And then your project is to find your people. And there are a lot of investors out there, don't spend time with those that aren't your people. Find your people. Don't try and turn a no to a yes. You won't. Just go find your yeses. So we're starting to get a little bit into the sort of technical aspects of what you all look for as investors. What can you tell us about the fund? So Baukunst is a collective of creative technologists, and we're focused on investing in companies really at the frontiers of technology and design. And we are exclusively investing in those companies at company formation. So we're talking a founder or a founding team, typically no product, no revenue, certainly no quote unquote traction to speak of. And for us, we really believe that there is kind of this early messy magic in that pre-seed phase where you're really iterating on product, getting it right, building something that has real soul in it. And that's the phase that we just truly love. I think across our partner team, we've shipped something like 50 first generation technology products. We were tallying it up the other day. And, for us, we just love that really first phase of team, product, and company building. And so that's all we do. We pretty much always lead, and we'll often take the full round. So, that's sort of $500K to $2 million-ish, depending on what the needs of the business are. We're pretty flexible on that. And we're happy to collaborate with other investors. But, we're really seeing that these party rounds with 100 investors, these really crazy long cap tables are very common at this stage. And we want to provide an option to just really go deep with one partner. We'll take a board seat, typically from kind of founding sort of through Series A.
and commit to kind of being in the foxhole, with that team and bringing this decentralized studio to bear as well. So the fund is very focused on that. I think we need to open our mind to where our opportunity is, but really it's like we don't need to open our mind. People have their minds open. Like, I'm just here to say, hey, come talk to me.
There you go.
Come talk to me. Like, I want to know you. Like, I want to help you if I can. And if that includes becoming your investor board member, fabulous. If that includes just like bringing you into the collective, fabulous. Like, we're just really excited to, have the platform to put these ideas out there and continue to like grow this collective of builders.
I'm going to wrap it up with our finale question that we're going to try to keep consistent on all our episodes. So you are on the BOM. I don't know if you know what BOM stands for.
Bill of materials, baby.
She knows. Don't
forget that last B. It's bill of materials, baby.
I love that. We're keeping that. That's going on the swag, on the t-shirts. I was like, also, I know we're anti-swag, but I sort of want early messy magic on something.
Yeah.
Can we get that on something?
I don't know if we will.
Yeah.
We need it though.
We'll figure it out.
We got it.
So what is your bill of materials? What gets you going, gets you out of bed, gets you motivated each week? What are your key ingredients? You can interpret that however you want.
Dance. Love it. Dance. I dance 5 days a week.
Wow.
At least. I would love to dance 7 days a week, but I also have an 18-month-old. Yeah. So I found a dance program in San Francisco called Rhythm and Motion about 5 years ago. Changed my life. And it's been in San Francisco for 40 years. And it's mostly women, although it's, not just women, but all ages, like teens to professional dancers to, women in their 70s and 80s, like grooving out, to pop music that has been around since it debuted, and all the choreography is cumulative. So like if a Prince song comes on, like you're doing the choreography from when that Prince song aired. So you end up dancing kind of through time and through genres and around the world because you're dancing the cumulative choreography that's been put together by teachers past and present. So I found it, and I think it really brought me into my body, into myself, into my spirit in a way that has been just a real grounding force in all of the things that I've done. And it's really like become the core of how I take care of me. And I couldn't do this work without it. So I'm so grateful to Rhythm and Motion and to dance.
Beautiful. I love you're the second of our guests to emphasize sort of the importance of like a physical activity, providing balance and sort of being one of the keys to success, so to speak. So to everyone listening, get dancing.
Yeah.
Get physical.
I'll say one more thing about it too. So it's interesting. I remember an event back at Pier 9 many years ago. Like I think I was just starting on Adventure, so it must have been 7 years ago or something. And there was a female partner from Andreessen Horowitz, and she was on the panel. People were asking her, like, how do you do it all? What do you recommend? How can I like persevere and like do well in this industry? And one of her pieces of advice was to have something that is just yours, that, no one can tell you whether you're good enough at, where you can control how much you do it and when you do it, to have something that's just yours. And whether that's a physical practice or a creative practice, dance is both, which is like one of the things that I love about it, right? But I really think that's true. And I think like the lie that we can subjugate the needs of our body, the needs of our spirit in service of our work is a total freaking lie, right? And I really do believe that like centering that allows us to go deeper and to build for the long term. And whether you're a founder or you're an investor, really you're any kind of part of this building ecosystem, like you need that endurance. And for me, yes, like dance is the beginning of that practice, but I really do believe that like everybody has that thing, and finding that thing serves you, or at least I can say it serves me.
Yes, I'm like, I just want to be like, snaps.
Yeah,
snaps.
Snap it
out. Thank you so much for just being so true to yourself with us and honest and telling us how you got to be where you are today. And I'm so excited to keep following all the amazing work you're doing and supporting, and hit up Kate with your ideas.
Yeah,
she's ready to listen. So thank you so much, Kate.
Majenta, it's been a pleasure. It's such an honor to be with you. Thank you.
On today's DesignLab debrief, we're going to be discussing my recent interview with Kate McAndrew and my field trip, so to speak, to San Francisco for their Baukunst launch summit. I was really honored to be invited by Kate to support a specific aspect of the conference, which was their anti-swag part of things. Their anti-swag. They didn't want to create wasteful swag that people would just take home and throw away. So they commissioned a sculptor to create these 2-part wall hangings, kind of 2.5D art pieces. So not fully in the round, but each one was made up of a wooden component and then a ceramic component. And the idea was really to invite the attendees to play around with these different components and make their own custom, piece to take home, one-of-a-kind piece to take home as their quote-unquote, swag of the event, which I thought was really awesome and creative and really proved to be super fun and enjoyable for the attendees. It was great to see adults playing. That sounds so silly, but we really don't see that enough. And so anything that sparks that, I think, is a success in my book. And so in order to help support this, I built some interactive displays for these pieces so that they'd be easy for people to build their pieces in such a small space. This is the first I'm hearing of a fund really calling out and focusing on this archetype, the creative technologist. How do you guys feel about there actually being, dedicated money to experimental early endeavors?
I find it very interesting, and I would like to focus a bit on the word technologist. I think they chose it very carefully. A technologist is someone who applies certain technology. So you're probably not dealing with a lot of scientific research. You are applying what exists, what's out there, to probably new problems, to try to solve new problems. And that allows you to move faster. So one thing is to do research, spend years and years working on this, working on that, essays, etc. And the other thing is to take this technology, apply it, and get new results fairly quick.
I think it's a good point where Giovanni, I think, is saying that you have a certain amount of knowledge of any one issue or problem, and enough information about it to be dangerous and move forward.
It actually reminded me of your current graduate degree that you're pursuing, right?
Yes, engineering technology.
And so I remember you describing sort of the difference between this and an electrical engineering degree, right? Could you explain that to all of us?
Think of a mechanical engineer would focus on vibration, and they can become experts on vibration and how it affects equipment, while an engineering technologist is not going to be an expert on vibration, but they are going to understand the impact on their projects and be able to collaborate with that mechanical engineer.
And have sort of a big picture awareness of all these different technologies, both current and upcoming, right? And be able to show how they can be utilized in groups and teams that might traverse, again, different disciplines.
Exactly. Well put. The time I'm not investing into becoming an expert on vibration, I'm spending it on learning about different other technologies: vibration, electronic engineering, electrical engineering, safety at work, etc., etc.
Do you all consider yourself creative technologists?
Oh, absolutely.
I think I do, yes.
I think many people may not know this, but Bruce also has an art school background, right, Bruce?
Yeah, art school background. Yeah.
You got to shout it out. It's like prominent art school.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I went to Pratt Institute.
Ow!
3D animation. But then I ended up working at Art Center College, and also after that, I was working at Caltech. So it's kind of like I got the best of both worlds with the...
Bruce only engages with the creme de la creme of all industries.
The artistic element and the engineering element, and it's a wild world.
And there's more overlap than some would think, right?
Yes, there's
wink,
quite a
wink,
bit.
nudge, nudge.
And you see that at the DesignLab.
Yeah. All right, thanks guys for the chat. We'll talk more next week.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to The Bomb. We'll see you next week. If you like The Bomb, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow SupplyFrame and Hackday on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and DesignLab at SupplyFrame DesignLab on Instagram and Twitter. The Bomb is a SupplyFrame podcast written, produced, and edited by Frank Driscoll and co-edited by Daniel Ferreira. Executive producers are Ryan Tillotson and Tyler Nielsen. Theme music is by Anna Hogbin with show art by Thomas Schneider. Special thanks to Giovanni Salinas, Bruce Dominguez, Thomas Woodward, Jin Kumar, Jordan Clark, Matt Gunn, the entire SupplyFrame team, and you, our wonderful listeners. I'm your host, Majenta Strongheart.